guys, GTS Garage. Today we're going to tackle the swing arm. Swing arm is one of those that is quite apprehensive about, purely because loads of videos online are just nightmares. You try and look at a way, there is no real easy way of doing it. You're either very lucky with them or you're unlucky with them. I'm hoping I'm going to be about middle, but it is not the easiest job. And the reason I say it's not the easiest job, because even in the manual it tells you to take it to a Yamaha dealer. Before I get lost in the detail, we may as well take a look at the theory, then we'll take a look at the tools, and then we'll crack on.
Okay guys, I'm not a particularly good drawer, but let's see if I can basically describe what I'm going to do. Okay, so we'll start with the swing arm. It's something like that. I know, not perfect, but it is something like that. On one side, on both sides, you're going to end up with a cap, which is something like that. You're going to end up with a seal, which is something like that. And you are going to end up with a washer, which sits behind. So that's basically it. You have one of those on each side. In the middle, you have a spacer. The spacer looks like a mag torch, but both ends having a bolt. There you go, flashlight. Okay, the spacer, and in about here you have bearings. So these are needle bearings. Needle bearings are slightly different than the wheel bearings that we've already seen, in as much they are much longer. Basically, instead of having ball bearings in, they have small rollers shaped like that, which make it very difficult to get out in one piece. But they tend to be a lot more delicate than the round ball bearing type bearings that we've seen in the past. So now that's obviously, there's a cap on the other side. So basically what we are going to do today is we've got a blind hole bearing puller. And the blind hole bearing puller, if I can get a piece of paper and you can see what I'm drawing. The blind hole bearing puller is it's got a shaft, it's got a lip such, through the middle it's got a screw thread, and then it's got a bolt, and then it's got a secondary bolt. And what you do is you tighten this bolt here, it lowers down, and it basically splays these edges further out. So the aim is to come in until these are out and they're splayed fully. It's like so. And then you're able to pull force that way, thus pulling the bearing out. Okay guys, tool wise for this job we're going to need two sets of tools, one for installation and one for taking them out and one for installation, sorry. So basically the blind puller I'm going to use for taking them out. I'm then going to use a threaded bar, some nuts, a couple of washers, plus a variation of spanners to put them back in. I'm also going to use my the race bearing driver set to help me keep them flush on the threaded bar, so it pushes the bearing in nice and straight. And you're going to need a grease gun and a couple of pieces of wood, and obviously a new set of bearings. The first thing to do is remove the caps. So the caps come off. Inside the caps you're going to find a washer. You're also going to find a rubber seal. Do not lose any of those parts, otherwise it won't all go back properly. So we'll put the washer and the rubber seal back in, and we'll push to one side. Now I do have a cold, so I apologise now. We also have, here's the spacer that we looked at, so we're going to put that down there also. We are then going to remove the other side, just as we've done, exactly the same setup. You've got the washer, you have the rubber seal. So what we're going to do is we will start with a reasonable size and put it up. Too small, we'll go up the next size up. That's probably going to be, let's see if we can just squeeze one more in, and we can't. So I know that the 20 mil is going to be the one, and we basically these just kind of go there through. You drive them in, and they just open the bearings at the end. They have a lip, and you're able then just to pull. So let's get these installed, put it in, and then we're going to have to expand it even further, which I am going to need to do with 2 spanners. With the first part of the drift tool inserted, or the blind bearing puller, we turn it round, and we're now going to install the main. Okay, so just take that onto there, screw that in as far as it will go. Okay, that seems to be it. Okay, so what we now do is give it some welly. Okay guys, basically a lot harder than you first think it's going to be. I finally managed to get this far just by applying heat on a regular basis to expand the metal and allowing the blind bearing puller to kind of work its way through, because it kind of catches but then it doesn't catch. Hang on, let me just get this out. Easy if I put it down, to be honest. Are you still able to see that? Probably. And we're out. So basically all I'm doing now is just removing the tool from the bearing by reducing the diameter. I mean, they're fairly self-explanatory and not rocket science, as Delboy says. But okay, so that should be enough to get that out. It's probably so mangled inside. That's it. Let's just take that out completely and then we can work on getting it out. There you go, done. Okay, so one bearing out. Now for the other side. Okay guys, when it comes to putting the bearings back in, we're not going to use the same method as we used with the wheel bearings, and the reason is a swing arm bearing is a needle bearing. Needle bearings tend to be longer and thinner, and if you start smacking around, even with a race, if you start smacking around on this surface, you're going to damage it. Basically I put 2 nuts at this end on the threaded bar, a washer and my race driving set, and you'll see that. You've then got the swing arm, so basically this provides a nice flat surface to your swing arm, so the bearing can only go in straight. I'm then going to line the bearing up on the other side of the swing arm, and I'm going to keep it straight by putting another one of my race driving bearings in at the other side, as you can see there. I'm then going to put a washer and a nut. And the idea is, because there's 2 nuts on here, when I draw this nut round, it is going to push everything down, which means it's going to insert this bearing in a nice, smooth, easy fashion. Okay, so installation is exactly the same. We take a bit of our grease. Let me just quickly get some of the grease out. There you go. So I just get a little bit of the grease out onto the finger. Not too much. It doesn't need to be overly slippery. It's exactly the same. Just rub that on the inside. Get it all nice and tight. That's flush with that. That's flush with that. It'll naturally straighten up the other bolt. So maybe you can, maybe you can't see that. We'll just check that that is straight, which it is. We'll now take the 19mm side and we will just start doing that up. And in turn, that will just naturally pull the bearing in. Okay guys, that's the second bearing in, so hopefully you can see that. So that's one bearing in. We're going to pack that with grease, and that's 2 bearings in. I'm going to pack that one with grease. Then we're going to put the swing arm back together again. So basically when I'm using grease, I'm just going to use the gun over. We'll go from the other side. put our spacer back in. Okay guys, that's the bearings in, that's the spacer in the middle, and now it comes to putting the caps back on. Remember to put the washer inside. You've got the seal, which I'll show you now by just removing it out again. If the seal is worn, cracked, yeah, you should replace them. If they're no longer sealing, you should replace them. But otherwise, you throw the seal back in, you throw the washer back into there, and then you just fit that straight over the top. And then what I will do, now do the other side and we're done.
Okay guys, that's it. Basically, was it hard? Yeah, it's not a pleasant job to do. It's not that difficult, but it is a long process. Those bearings once in do not want to come back out. What that tool gave me was options. Even the option where the actual bearing was destroyed with inside because of the slide hammer going backwards and forward, basically brought the bearings out and just popped the bearings out. Even when it had lost its integrity, I still had an option to go up a greater size or a larger size on the tool and was able to still remove them. Long painful, took me about an hour and a half to do that. That's taking the bearings out and installation. So I shall catch you in a couple of weeks. You take it easy, look after yourselves. GTS Garage out.